I was interested to read that you have what seemed to me to be quite a number of mechanical assistants in the way of tractors and combines. Do you have what you consider to be a fairly normal inventory of machinery?
Yeah, some of our equipment is different from conventional farmers in the area. We, for example, have a rotary hoe and a sweep plow or blade plow, which are minimum tillage tools that are used for weed control systems, and where most conventional farmers would probably use herbicides to perform that function for them. But in terms of our overall capital investment in equipment, we're very comparable to conventional.
You have something called a rock picker?
Oh yes.
What does a rock picker do?
Well, the glacier was very kind to provide us with lots of field stones in our fields. So and frost heaves will continually bring those to the surface each year. So you know, usually every couple of years we have to go out and clean those off. Otherwise, you're going to be breaking equipment.
They just sort of come erupting to the surface.
That's right. Right.
You think you get them all, and then there they are again.
That's right.
And you have something called a swather.
Yes.
Is that how you pronounce it?
Right. Yeah.
And I don't know what that is.
Okay, it's in some parts of the country they're called windrowers, we live in the mixed prairie grass ecosystem in North Dakota, which is very rolly. The terrain, the topography is quite rolly, and so consequently the grains in the lower lying areas will remain green longer than those in the higher areas. And if you wait for all of it to ripen so that you can combine it directly, then you usually end up either having to combine some that's too green or some that's already starting to break down because it's overripe. And so one of the ways of dealing with that is to cut it at a medium period of time, at a medium stage of ripening, and then let it dry in the field, in the swaths, and then you come along later and pick it up with the combine. And so that's just a way to really field dry the grain.
And of course you have a manure spreader, I read, and combines, and a loader for the manure spreader.
Yeah, right. And also for feeding the livestock. In the winter months, we bring the livestock into feedlots because the weather in North Dakota gets too
I can
harsh
imagine.
for them, and so we use the loaders for feeding.
You have also been quoted as saying that the two major expenses that you have are hybrid seeds and energy. And I'd like to talk about both of those a little bit. Let's start with energy, though, because we were talking about machinery, and I was thinking about assistance that you have from people. What kind of a crew do you have? Do you hire during the season? Is it just you and your wife? Or
yeah, well, my father's 81, but he still insists on being out on the tractor once in a while. Yeah, so he, during the summer months,
he's out there.
He helps, right? He provides part of the labor. My wife helps primarily during seeding time, operates a tractor for us, and then also runs one of the combines during harvest. We have the only outside labor that we've hired is we hired a high school graduate a little over a year ago. That's with us year round.
So you have 3,100 acres.
That's right. And
there's essentially 4 of you, and not even 4 full time.
No, actually, it probably would amount to the equivalent of about 2.5 full time.
2.5 full time. That's most impressive. That means that you're pretty energetic right there. But it's something that you consider to be a major expense is the energy involved. And obviously, you're talking about more than just human energy.
Yeah,
you're talking about fuel.
Diesel fuel, right?
Diesel fuel, which, given the climate we're in or the times we're in right now, is pretty horrendous.
Yeah, the energy, actually our energy consumption in terms of diesel fuel has gone down, despite the fact that we make more trips across the field than conventional farmers do.
How so?
That's attributed to 2 things. One is that we in this kind of farming system, you can utilize a minimum tillage approach quite nicely. In a conventional system, there simply are times when you need to use, unless you rely entirely on herbicides, you need to use things like a moldboard plow to help with weed control, to bury the weed seeds deeper and those kinds of things. So a lot of farmers use that as a strategy, and which we did when we were farming conventionally. So that, and then the other thing, the second reason is that our soil tilth simply has improved to the point now where it doesn't require as much horsepower anymore to pull tillage equipment through the soil. But we have actually reduced our fuel consumption by 20%.
That's impressive.
From the time that we were farming conventionally to what we're doing now.
Well, let's talk about hybrid seeds then.
Well, there are, hybrid seeds are one of those things that you can't get around. We can't produce those on our own farm, so you just have to buy those and bring them in.
Mm-hmm.
We do try to use our own seeds in crops that we don't need hybrid seeds in, like wheat and so on.
Mm-hmm.
We probably on an average of every 4 or 5 years, we will buy a new variety of seeds.
I was going to ask you if you
So we try to stay current. We try to stay current with that. But once we buy the new variety for some seed stock, and then we rely on our own production again. And there are some claims made that seeds grown under these kinds of management systems, as over against conventional systems, have more vigorous growth and so on. I don't know that there's any really solid evidence to back that up, but we get good results from our own seeds, so we try to use it whenever we can.
It would seem that it would be something that growing in the place where it's going to be propagated would make a lot of sense.
Sure, it does. It does make sense. All I'm saying is I don't know that we have any real hard evidence to back that up, but common sense would indicate that it probably has some merit.
I know that you've cooperated in at least one LISA project, the Low Input Sustainable Agriculture project that the government funded, I think 2 years ago or more. Right. Would you talk a little bit about that? What did you do? And you're the cooperating farmer, is that the right term? Yeah,
we actually only participated in that for 1 year because then I got elected to the LISA North Central Administrative Council, and I thought it was a conflict of interest, so I pulled out of the program. But the first year, what we were trying to do, and then part of that research project was to find an alternative legume that would replace more traditional legumes that have been used that would do a couple of things. We were looking for a legume that wouldn't take as much moisture out of the soil, because North Dakota, where we are, has an average rainfall of about 18 to 19 inches, so we need to be very careful about conserving our moisture. And one of the more traditional legumes, which is one, in fact, that we use on most of our farm as a green manure, is yellow blossom sweet clover. And you have to manage that very carefully, otherwise it will take too much moisture out of the soil and rob the subsequent crop from its moisture. So we were looking for a legume that would take less moisture. We were looking for a legume that would perpetually reseed itself, so that once you seeded it, it would always be there and continue to feed nitrogen and green manure to the soil. That first year that I participated in the project was disappointing because it was 1988, which was the severest drought on record.
Yes.
So we didn't get very much of a legume established. We worked with black medic, and
I'm sorry, I don't know.
Well, black medic is it's an interesting plant. It's actually been used quite successfly as an alternative legume in the Palouse area in Washington and in areas of Montana. It is a shorter plant, so consequently the reason that it won't take as much moisture, and it does seem to do quite well in reseeding itself. It's been a bit of a disappointment in North Dakota in that we're not quite sure it's going to be winter hardy enough to survive North Dakota's winters, and so the project is still going on, and they're still looking for some other experimenting with other legumes. The Research Center in Carrington has, I think they're dealing with 10 or 12 different varieties on small plot basis, and then are gradually pushing those out onto farms and trying to see how they perform in an on-farm setting.
Do you have any on your farm, black medic?
No, we don't now. We tried it that first year, and then we tried a second experiment the following year, which was 1989, which was again a drought year. But some of it survived in 1989. But since we're not participating directly in the program now, we decided to pull back out of it, and we've just gone back to yellow blossom sweet clover again, and we've actually learned to manage that pretty well. That's working quite successfully for us, so there's not a big pressing need for us right now to look for something else.
I'm interested in your use of the word manage to talk about managing the yellow blossom sweet clover. What do you mean, manage?
Well, the yellow blossom sweet clover is a plant that we're discovering fixes the majority of its nitrogen by the time it gets to just the beginning of the blossom stage.
So it's still fairly early on.
That's right, which at that point is usually 24 to 30 inches high. And it reaches that height by the first week in June, so it's early in the season.
And you would have planted it after frost, of course, in the spring.
No, you plant it, actually it's a biennial, so you plant it with a nurse crop the previous year.
Okay.
And so the thing that we've discovered is that the important thing is to incorporate it into the soil at the right time, and that's just as it starts to go into blossom.
Mm-hmm.
After it goes into full blossom, it really starts taking a lot of moisture out of the soil. And traditionally, when farmers have used sweet clover as a green manure, they let it go to full height because you have more stuff to put in.
Sure,
right?
it looks more impressive.
Right, and but that's when it really takes the moisture out. And if you don't get adequate rainfall after that, then you've robbed your subsequent crop from the moisture it needs. So managing it properly means timing the incorporation so that you get a maximum benefit in terms of the biomass that you're putting into the soil and the nitrogen that you fix, but not robbing it of the moisture that you need.
Mm-hmm. Does it also mean the appropriate timing of any kind of fertilizer that you might be using, any kind of organic fertilizer?
Well, we don't use any off-farm inputs anymore. We haven't since 1980 now.
I was thinking of manure.
Yeah, we do. And what we do in our rotation is we devote 1 year to what we call a soil building year, and that's the year when we incorporate the green manure, and then we compost all of our livestock manure, and we apply that during that same time. Mm-hmm. And that gives us a adequate nutrient base to, depending on the soil type, enables us then to raise either 3 or 4 crops from that nutrient supply.
And then you do it again.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.